So what we saw in January was really a mirroring of what we typically see in January from years past. The big difference is that volumes remain significantly up. So we saw the traditional drop in volume around Christmas and New Year's. And then a couple days after New Year's, every year, once equipment gets repositioned, we see those volumes spike back up. In fact, if you looked at the volume index in a one-day period, there was a 21% increase in the volume index. And that's just carriers are back on the road, their equipment's in the right spot. There's still tons and tons of demand out there. So we saw the dip, and then we saw it ramp right back out. And throughout, very consistently throughout the month, that volume index has remained in the high 13,000s to today. It crossed back over 14,000. So there's no shortage of freight to move out there for sure.
What about, I mean, all of 2020 was about e-commerce and how it blew up. And as we all know, I mean, it's everywhere and small package stuff like that. How did the holidays affect, or was there really no change? It was kind of business as usual, even though we all felt like we were stuck at home. Nothing really changed.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge change. So, talking about small package and all that, we had this potential shipageddon, it was being called in the media, this potential huge issue because of increased volumes. And, I even encourage people, do your buying early, like really, really early, because there will be delivery issues, no question about it. Now, the numbers for UPS, FedEx, and USPS were actually just released on their holiday performance, and they were surprisingly very high. In fact, they were just a tick below 2019. But if you measure the noise, which is, again, a little bit anecdotal, 2019, people were just flat out pissed about packages not being delivered. I think what 2020 did is it kind of reset our expectations, right? So I think we all had a little bit more of an appetite or an understanding that, yep, I'm going to place this order, and there's a possibility that this may deliver on time. I just think there was a lot less noise around it just because of the environment that we all had to live in.
I mean, that's huge news, right? If the customer kind of expectations at least shifting to something that's a little more reasonable, it seems like a great thing for carriers and even shippers.
Yeah. No, I mean, the big news actually just hit everybody's desk yesterday, and that's UPS is selling off UPS Freight. So their LTL division is being spun off for $800 million to a Canadian-based company called TFI. That was surprising to everybody, but I think after you get by the initial shock, right, and you take a step back and you kind of exhale and you look at it, it makes sense. Carol Tomei is the CEO over at UPS, and she's been very vocal about margin enhancements and return on invested capital. LTL carriers typically operate with razor-thin margins. The operating ratio that I think UPS Freight published for 2020 was about a 98. So for every dollar that they spend, they make 2 cents. That's what that means. So anything under 100 means it's positive. Anything over 100 means you're upside down. And if you look at if you shift back over to small package and you look at some of the accessorials that were put in place, again, this is margin enhancement, right? This goes right down to UPS's bottom line. So, when you look at the acquisition of Overnight, which eventually became UPS Freight, they just never really invested heavily enough, I don't think, in terms of tech with UPS Freight. When you look at UPS as an overall corporate entity, and I don't think they just ever got to those synergies that they hoped that they were going to get. So when you take a step back, it kind of makes sense. Now, TFI benefits. UPS Freight revenue is over $3 billion annually, and they're getting this for $800 million. And this allows TFI to really offer a true North American LTL solution. When I look at their portfolio of business, there was a gap in the LTL space, and this fits very nicely for those folks. So, it's got to go through regulatory approval. And who knows what happens with all the terminals that are a part of this, and all the labor as well. It's over 14,000 employees at UPS Freight that now are going to be under new management, over 11,000, which are union members as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But what we're hearing is that it's going to be business as usual. And anybody that has some bundled freight in their pricing, that's not going to go away either between small package and LTL. So it kind of business as usual for there. But yeah, definitely a shock yesterday.